Hey everybody, it's Tracy, and I get a lot of questions obviously because I facilitate opening up financial accounts for businesses of all nature, whether that's bank accounts, payment rails, what have you. And the question I get, especially because most people come to me after they've tried to do it on their own and they've been turned down, is am I high risk? So I wanted to do this video and give you my opinion of the top 10 high risk verticals for not only merchant processing, but banking and the like for 2024. And I'll qualify it by saying that this is just through my experience. Obviously, there's no metrics or somebody keeping tabs on like denials and acceptance rates and all that. And, I qualify it by saying if you are Coinbase, for instance, right, and you go to get a merchant processor, being, one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world versus somebody who just got the license and is just out of the gate and is relying on one license, has no real activity, it's obviously going to be different. Like your risk profile goes up and down based on like where you are as a company, right? But just assuming arguendo, as they used to say in law school, which is dumb, here's my top 10. Number one, probably guessed it, crypto, right? All things crypto exchanges, payment rails, OTC, what have you. That is going to be your toughest. Why is it your toughest? Because of KYCC, right? It's never that they can't find out who you are, but not every financial institution has the capability, and sometimes even the crypto entity trying to get the license, to know who their customer is and track where like crypto comes in and out of the system. So that's number one. Number two, Forex, right? And this is a myriad of reasons. You have like the sort of murky, unlicensed ones, and then you have a lot that are licensed in sort of offshore outposts where AML KYC is not as stringent as there is in the US. Like look at how many US brokers there are in Forex. Very few, but look, there's more in Mauritius, right? It doesn't make any sense, but it does because it's easier to get the license there. And so you have a greater bar because obviously there's a lot of crypto scams, Forex scams, but also there's just not the same KYC requirements. Third, and this is a new one, I think, to some extent, it's always been high risk, investment funds, right? Because even though there's two reasons. One, it's high dollar, right? So like anything high dollar tends to be more risky. So it's like I'm gonna invest in a hedge fund, like my minimum may be 25,000, maybe 100,000, who knows? That's always going to be a little bit riskier, but also you're taking people from all over the world. There's a lot of, especially with high net worth people, there's a lot of like KYCC involved in terms of, well, I'm investing through this company, which is owned by this company, which may be owned by my wife. And so that's always posed a problem, but it's getting heightened scrutiny, especially as the EU changes its laws regarding disclosure and KYC around investment funds. Fourth, odd one, but I found this to be new, is non-for-profits. Non-for-profits are extremely high risk, and you think, well, they're not, they don't operate for profit. Well, they do. I mean, like overwhelmingly, like in the United States, you only really need to give away like 6-7% of your total like throughput to altruistic causes, right? So they really are for profit, but there's no real governance imposed on non-for-profits, like the corporate structure itself. Whereas, as a corporate entity, especially if they're engaged in certain activities, there's like far more regulation around it in terms of reporting, internal auditing, things like that. Whereas non-for-profits, like take the US, for example, a country club is a non-for-profit, right? They're all set up as non-for-profit companies and they sell securities. So like I join a country club, I get a share of XYZ country club. Well, that's exempt as a securities offering. So all of like the KYC and stuff that goes in with selling like a share of a for-profit company doesn't apply to not-for-profit. So that's part of the reason. 5, high-value dealers, right? Anything. So think of like watches, jewelry, things like that. Anything that carries value and is expensive, because money launderers have traditionally used like the diamond market, watch market, any sort of high-end luxury value to buy the items and then sell it somewhere else and sort of clean the cash, right? 6, payment service providers. It's kind of gone down a little because the regulation of payment service providers is at the national and state level has gone up, right? But it's still obviously fraught with risk because you have like a higher chargeback risk, and the capital requirements aren't quite the same as a bank, and so on and so forth. So it's becoming less risky, but still makes the list. 7, gaming, right? And this is sort of like the Forex thing, but a little bit different in so much that while the majority of gaming operators are licensed, right, you have a particularly high number of microtransactions, right? Like 50, 100, right? You know, it's not everybody that goes online and just opens an account and throws in 25,000, although some people do. And most people who do that do it either in person or they do it through pay-per-head operations, which is a whole nother story. But the microtransaction nature of a lot of these gaming platforms creates a particularly high risk because a lot of those smaller transactions fall outside of the ambit of KYC protocols, right? Then we move to number 8, adult, right? Adult's always been on high risk. Like, it's not even a legal thing anymore because it's largely allowed, you know, around the world, especially in the United States, but it has a super high chargeback rate, like crazy high. So that's why you see a lot of like the bigger adult sites moving to crypto, because it sort of alleviates that and they don't necessarily have to deal with like a financial institution. Next, we come to my favorite, drugs, right? In the US, and I say drugs, not only in terms of like legalized cannabis, but also nutraceuticals, right? And obviously in the US where cannabis is legal, it's not legal at the federal level. So any sort of FI doesn't really want to touch it for risk of somehow being implicated as, you know, being in conspiracy to sell illegal narcotics. But you get down to like the nutraceutical level where, one, there's a lot of specious claims, so there's a high level of chargeback. But 2, there's not really like this redundancy and like governance from any sort of regulatory board anywhere in the world in terms of like what goes into these nutraceuticals. So a lot of nutraceuticals that you buy that say like, you know, you're gonna gain 30 pounds of muscle in like a week, well, they may actually have some level of anabolic steroid in there, which is illegal. So you kind of run into this, and payment service providers kind of like shy away because, again, there's this sort of arcane legal argument that you could get roped into it, right? And then finally, affiliate, number 10, affiliate and MLM, right? Again, you know, affiliate, MLM, it's just, and most of them are clean, right? Overwhelmingly. I mean, MLM, you know, okay, fine. It has the indicia of a scam, but affiliate, you know, the good ones work, right? But you're talking about massive amounts of mass payout, micro transactions, right? And it doesn't make legal sense or financial sense for like an affiliate marketer who's running an affiliate network to KYC everybody, because I'm not going to give you blood and urine so I can make 30 cents, you know, per transaction, or, you know, $20 a month, right? So it's really sort of this like hurdle to getting people to get into the network, and it just doesn't make sense. And then most of them, overwhelmingly, they aren't actual financial entities or regulated entities, so they don't have to do it. Like everybody, no matter what you do and where you are, you have some AML KYC requirements, but affiliate and MLM are just like, you know, the guy selling a pack of gum down in the corner. So those are my top 10. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have questions on whether you fall in there, because the list is actually longer than 10. I just decided to stop at 10 because this video is like 10 minutes, right? So Definitely hit me up, Adam at adamtracy.io, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.